This week on Myopia Movies, we're going to finish my month with one of my favorite movies ever made. We're talking Back to the Future. It's a classic, and if you guys like it, maybe we'll come back and do Back to the Future 2 and 3. Anyway, thank you for doing all you do to keep us on the charts. Thanks for keeping us popular. Thanks for doing your reviews. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we start my month. Ladies and gentlemen, I've chosen the whole thing.
Yup.
Oh, girl.
And what is your month?
My month means Hoffamania month.
Hoffamania. No.
Yeah. And this month we learn how thirsty a mom can be.
Thirsty a mom can be.
Do you know that Hoffman syndrome is when you have a compression on your spine and that you have actually like numbness in your hands and a difference of size between your forearms? Continue.
This week. And we're moving on.
The more you know.
I'm Nick Hoffman, your host with the most and the man who's chosen this month.
That's true.
And we have on panel
Nord Chernette, contributor to Myopia Movies, and I'm going to figure out how the fuck time travel works.
And I'm Charlie Rose, and I can tell you there's at least like 7 different philosophies to time travel. We're going to have to talk about that.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say that I'm Candace. Also, I work on Cineprov with Nick. You can see me every Friday at the fabulous Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Plaza Theater, every Monday at Felix's Geek Theme Trivia, and of course only on my OnlyFans. And more importantly, we all know that time travel is wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, and completely non-linear.
One day someone's going to ask us for your OnlyFans.
I know. And I'm going to be like, nah, it was bullshit. I'm
Use
lazy.
promo code Myopia to get 30% off of Candace's OnlyFans page.
Your only friends level.
My OnlyFans level.
God.
Yeah.
It's just more of myopia recording.
Yeah. Oh my God! If you catfish people to your OnlyFans, it's just podcast myopia shit.
I mean,
What the fuck is this?
I know what I'm doing tomorrow morning.
You set up a video camera to video us while we're doing the podcast.
Bro, do you know what you do? Just do an ASMR video and have our podcast in the background and just do that thing while we're like reviewing a movie.
It's like 90s pornography, and it's loading line by line.
Buff.
Right when you get to Candace's like nipple line, it just says a QR code for the podcast.
And the whole time it's making that like fucking AOL noise, like.
or worse, it's like 80s porn, which is ASCII art that you download from a bulletin board system at 300 baud rate. I just aged myself.
The nipples are circles.
What?
Those words probably meant nothing to you or anyone else born.
You said porn and bulletin board. That shit don't make sense to me. Thank God. Oh my God, thank God. Have you noticed that when porn became on your phone, your phones got bigger? Do you think about that? Remember, it used to be how small your phone could get, and how big your phone is. Yeah.
Now it's how big is it?
How big it is. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So we're gonna do Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And Back to the Future might be the most
Great.
Taboo.
incredible. It might be my favorite film of all time.
What? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty. You've seen a lot of movies.
It's a beautiful nonsense movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, but is it? I mean, it's not that good.
You know why? Because you don't need money. You don't need fame. Because that's the power of love.
I mean, you got your incredible score. You got a good direction.
Please fucking walk Nora out of here.
No,
I know, right?
I was just finding an excuse to put in that because I actually had the lyrics pulled up. I just wanted because that's a good ass song.
It's the power
I like
of
how you're
movie.
reading it like
It's the
William
power of
Shatner
love.
style. You're like,
Don't make fun.
you don't need money.
Listen,
you don't need
they
fame.
actually made fun of me in high school because when we would do our literature
many
class,
reasons.
Yeah.
so many reasons. Thank you. They used to make fun of me because the way I would read out loud was like William Shatner because I was a very
Right.
theater kid.
Okay.
So if I read something,
To be or not to be.
yeah, but in my voice, that's what I sound like. But yeah.
Well, I feel bad now that they made fun of you. So
That's
I won't
okay.
choose you
That's
anymore.
okay.
I
I
mean,
feel kind of bad now.
nah, it's all right.
so
just gonna eat this
just
jerky.
for me,
You just eat the cured meat.
the reason I think this is a good movie,
All right.
it follows the rules of film. It's very engaging. It's funny. It tells a story.
Yeah.
I mean, the plot is absurd, which is, what if I went back in time to make sure my mom got laid? But also,
because that's what
what if my mom was crazy hot? But in general, I just find it engaging. It's a film. It's an entertainment. I find this movie incredibly engaging and funny.
Well, let's talk about time travel movies. Was there any like significant time travel movie or anything that sci-fi from that of this major scale, or was this the first one of its like?
Well, I mean, there's Terminator. There's Time Machine.
I think he's asking in the year of 1985, this was release date of July 3rd, 1985. Was there a film? That hot this year?
That's a very good point.
That's what I think Nor's asking.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
And these things come in waves.
Thank you.
A
crazy
bunch of
people.
undersea movies at
Right?
once.
Right.
Yes. A bunch of asteroids destroying the world at once.
Yes.
Well, but also, this is 1985,
Okay.
and in general, what's hot is 30 years before, and so like the 80s becoming the 50s makes sense
There's
a way.
Stark contrast between the two.
Right. And in a way that the 2020s references the 90s a lot.
God, I feel
Less of a stark contrast, but
Including
still.
at Walmart. If you're into 90s fashions, I'm just waiting. Please, God, bring jeans back under dresses. I'm ready.
jean dresses.
I'm ready
Oh
for this.
my God.
Remember when you wear a dress and you wear jeans underneath?
Yeah.
That was the pinnacle of my fucking height, and I'm ready for
Well,
it.
and I
Bring
will
it
say,
back. Bring her
jeans
back.
aside, tie-dye is back like it was in
It
the
is
90s.
really high back.
No. I love just tying that flannel shirt around my waist.
Yeah.
Just
Ooh.
rocking
Yeah.
that like I didn't care
True.
what people thought of me.
So,
Listening to my
Nor,
Pearl
in
Jam.
order to answer your question, what was hot in
thank you, Candace.
1985? The answers are some of the movies that were hot in 1985 were Clue,
Okay.
Ewoks, The Battle for Endor,
Oh,
Previous
shit.
episode.
previous episode, Legend,
Previous
Ooh,
episode,
Tim Curry classic, Explorers,
Ronald Reagan.
Delivery Boys, The Last Dragon, Goonies.
With the Last
Previous
Dragon.
episode.
Oh, Goonies is so good, y'all.
Previous episode.
Okay.
Weird Science.
Previous episode.
Good movie.
Commando.
Previous episode.
Barbarian Queen.
No.
The Color Purple. Bitch,
Not-
you better not say previous episode.
Oh, I was
No,
about to
good
say.
movie
Yes.
though.
I was about to say.
Good movie. Amazing movie.
Produced
Amazing
by
film.
Oprah, I think.
Red Sonja.
Harpo.
Yes.
Should be a previous episode. Breakfast Club.
Previous
Mad Max
episode.
and St. Elmo's Fire.
Ooh.
So I gotta
Elmo's
say,
Fire.
this is very unique
I was about to say.
in reference to the other films that were classically 1985.
Well,
So
if,
continue.
in another universe, this was a John Hughes movie. As a teenager, it's a lot of like interpersonal relationships, but this is insane and it's a lot of fun.
Well, here's the thing, back in the 80s, it was hard to do science fiction or fantasy
right.
because the effects, you had to be either very clever and do low effects with impact,
Right.
or if you did effects, it was going to be schlocky and it just wasn't going to do well. Now,
Well, it was very Ray.
Transpose
Ray,
that-
Ray Hausenhower.
Harry
Harry
Hauser.
House.
Harry Hausenhower. Thank you.
Who the hell? What?
He was a dude who did the old school claymation, slow, scene by scene, shot by shot, special
Like
effects.
Sinbad and
Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans. So anything cool like
Watch Clash
skeleton
of the
fightings and
Titans.
shit that you saw, that was the closest thing we had to that.
Yep,
Sinbad
exactly.
the comedian.
Let's pretend you're
Oh,
right
okay.
for a second.
Okay.
Um,
Was this the actual show?
No, Sinbad was
And
one of the 1001 Arabian Nights
Yes.
characters, and so
there was an animated movie about
Yes.
him. Okay. See, you got. Listen. Some people, you need me because I don't know any of this
That
stuff.
listen,
Yeah.
that's all right. You show a demographic of persons listening who are like, I've never heard of this. And then that way you can sit at home the next day and go down the deep, dark YouTube hole and then,
And
waste
look
your
up
youth
all
like
the
the rest
Ray
of us.
Harryhausen stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Well-
everything is influenced by something, and
That's right.
and like
That's right.
it's art.
Yeah.
well, and to no one's benefit
This
other
is
than the
master
film
class
people,
you didn't sign up for.
right? And to no one's benefit other than the film people you listen to this, look up Letterboxd, which is like a movie social networking.
Yeah.
because then when you say Ray Harryhausen, you can follow the reviews.
Yep.
And it's not me saying you need to do this, but if you're curious, that's what that kind of a thing is for. So speaking of the movie we're talking about, I almost feel like we don't need to talk about the plot of this because everyone knows Back to the Future, kind of.
Do they
So-
know?
What does he have to? What does he have to do though? In the movie?
All right, so
Okay.
He has to go
so-
where?
Candace, give it to us.
All right, I'll give you the review. So it's 1985,
Yes.
and
Reagan
Marty
economics.
McFly, Reagan, trickle down economics, trickle down to my motherfucking throat economics. That's what it motherfucking
Oh,
is.
she
I'm not
went
even gonna go into that
there.
fucking thing. Anyways,
Fuck freakonomics.
Marty McFly lives in Hill Valley. He lives with his depressed alcoholic mother, Lorraine, his older siblings, who are like total failures, right? And his very meek father, George, which by the way, as we all know, my pet peeve in all things is indecisive man. I hate indecisiveness. Fucking shit or get off the motherfucking pot. Here we go.
We would never
Who
work.
is constantly bullied by his supervisor, Biff.
Biff.
After Marty's band fails a music audition, he confides in his girlfriend, Jennifer, who's played by two different characters. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
That he fears that he's becoming just like his parents, a total failure. That night, Marty meets Doc Brown, who is literally the best part of this whole movie, at the Twin Pines,
Lloyd.
right at the Twin Pines Mall, in their parking lot, and unveils a time machine. Continue.
A DeLorean time machine.
So-
I mean, why wouldn't you make a DeLorean into a time machine?
You gotta make it with class.
What are you gonna do? A police box?
Now, I want
see
to
what
mention
you
so
did
Christopher Lloyd, which obviously people would only know him at this time from what? Taxi? Was Taxi a thing?
Oh,
Was this
Taxi
covered?
was a
Um,
thing.
and-
Taxi was definitely a
Was
thing.
the
and
thing.
Who Framed
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit? When did that come out?
Oh yeah,
Afterwards.
Was this afterwards? Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Roger was what, in like 92?
no.
It was in the
earlier
80s.
now?
It was in
but
the 80s.
I think it was after 85, though. It was maybe 87?
Yeah.
God, that's such a good movie, by the way. But continue.
Masterpiece.
Yeah, go on.
And well, for me at least, Christopher Lloyd's always been old. Like I see him now, I was like, oh, you haven't
No,
changed.
you're right.
Yeah.
Because, like, this role here,
Yeah.
he's grayed out, and he's not that old at this point. But, like, after this, he does, like, I think it's Dennis the Menace as well.
Ugh.
He was.
But
in that?
even
I
th-
hate that movie, by the way. but
It's a
continue.
strange movie.
It's weird.
But, anyway, you're not wrong. This
So-
is the basis for Rick and Morty.
That, no, that is true.
Yeah.
And also, I want to mention Marty's dad,
George,
George.
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover, who's a...
who is equally as weird in the movie
Yeah.
as he is in person.
Yes, he's in
I
that.
met him at the plaza,
Yeah.
and he might as well have been smelling hair.
Yo.
He is the
Well,
weirdest fucking
You have
dude.
nice earlobes, Candace.
Yeah, like I met him out front, and I was doing a Rocky show, and I was like, hey, just want to let you know, here's how it's going to go with our Rocky cast, because he was doing a thing where it was the movie with the rats that he had done recently.
Oh, right.
What was that called? It was very
Willard
strange.
or Ben?
Willard, that's what it was.
Yes, it was Willard.
And so I was like, hey, my name's Candace. I run the Rocky show. Here's what we're going to do. And he was like, that's fine. And he came up like so close to my face that I thought he was going to lick it. I wouldn't have minded. But it was just one of those things where I was like, this dude is equally strange in real person, which is always great. Because, you know, there's some people you meet in person and you're like, this was totally blown out of proportion. They're not as weird as like they portray in the film.
Yeah.
No, he's just as weird. And it was mildly arousing.
It was your thing. Well, I'm sure we can go on a Crispin Glover wormhole.
Journey.
And just not to plug, it was just I learned about him, and you know, obviously it was from Back to the Future and that one Letterman interview, and he was also the creepy Foster guy from Like Mike with Bow Wow. I would suggest people watch the YouTube series the WTF, where they do a deep dive into him. But I just wanted to point that out because he was very like prolific, and like he plays that
Definitely
fucking role
out
to a
there.
T.
He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
Nice, but really strange. Yeah.
Okay, so just really quick, Marty, his mom, his dad, and Biff Tannen, played by Tom Wilson. Who is the youngest and who do you think is the oldest of all of them?
Biff is definitely both the youngest and the shortest.
Okay.
Biff is the shortest?
So Biff is a really short guy, and all of his scenes were done on top of a box, standing. And I only know this because my husband was in a movie with him.
Yo.
He was in Andersonville, which is a movie all about the Andersonville prison during the Civil War.
And my coworker was one of the prisoners.
My husband was one of the prisoners. And so he was there for living in a prison, like a prisoner for 4 months. It was awful. I didn't know him then, so I don't give a shit. But anyways, it was one of those things that Biff is this really tiny guy, and they purposely put him on boxes, and they film him from an upward viewpoint to make him look larger than he actually is. My husband said he was actually an incredibly nice guy, by the way. So,
and look him up on YouTube. He has a song called "Stop Asking Me These Questions" about being on Back to the Future, which is very funny. And I will say only that I don't know about his height, but Michael J. Fox and Leah Thompson are almost the exact same age.
All right.
They're only different by 7 days.
Okay.
But
in Hollywood years, as a woman, she might as well be 25
like 50.
years old.
I mean, she's a corpse.
I mean, literally, her eggs are freezing as we fucking speak.
Tom is the oldest by a year and a half. Tom Wilson is the oldest. And Crispin Glover is younger than Michael J. Fox and Leah Thompson by 3 years.
Wow, that is shocking.
Well,
I am shooketh.
But they did a fantastic job with the practical effects and makeup.
Yes.
Same with James Tolkan as the principal. The way that they age these people.
Tolkien is the same kind of guy.
Tolkien or Tolkien?
Well, not Tolkien like J.R. Tolkien. But the fact that he has been an old guy, an old principal police officer in every movie he's ever been in.
Right.
Yeah.
His whole life. He's been an old dude. He's never been south of 55 years old for his whole fucking life.
So
just like Christopher Lloyd. Because he was in Masters of the Universe, one of my favorite fun, silly, dumb movies. That
previous episode.
Etched in my nightmares forever. He just lives rent-free in my fucking brain.
Yeah.
And so,
Previous episode, he was also in Top Gun.
He is in Top Gun. Yeah.
He's in future episode War Games, which we riffed on Cineprov as well.
War Games is trash.
I mean,
but it was delicious.
It's so good.
Talk about the fucking Cold War.
He's in previous episode Cobra as well. The dude is he's always been bold and he's always been angry. He's called so many actors in Hollywood a butthead. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Michael J. Fox because I recently watched a documentary called Still, which talks about his life, and obviously with obviously now is the Parkinson's. So he was on a famous TV show called Family Ties. During this time, and people
so he was on this show.
Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna stop you there.
So that we can all
tell us about
ass.
Mr. Stoll.
Tell me about Family Ties.
You want to know about the original Marty McFly?
Oh,
because it feeds into what you're talking about.
Thank you.
It is important.
Not Greg or George or whatever.
Eric Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz. Because Eric Stoltz was also in Family Ties.
Oh shit, for real?
Yes.
Well, tell me more about Shorts and why it didn't work out.
As the uncle.
Yes. And
who is an alcoholic.
And if you've seen
a very special Family Ties.
If you've seen Pulp Fiction, he's the guy who looks like Jesus who saves Uma Thurman when she ODs.
Oh, the drug dealer?
Yeah.
The guy who where's my little black medical book? He was Marty, and if you look on YouTube, you can find original footage.
Yeah, I know
when
that.
they're in the 1950s diner, when they throw a punch at Biff, Michael J. Fox never filmed that scene.
Yep.
That's Eric Stoltz.
So what happened?
Apparently, Spielberg looked at the dailies, and he's like, "This guy isn't working.
This isn't working."
And in fact,
now what are the dailies?
There are several hints to this later on, either in other the sequel or other films, where it shows the movie Back to the Future starring Eric Stoltz. What am I thinking of?
Trailers.
Yeah.
So you asked what dailies were.
No,
At the end of a shooting day, you do a shoot 1,000 times of a scene, you can rewatch those scenes. And so you have the director who's directing, telling people what to do, and the producers are the ones who are actually paying for the movie.
Right.
And Spielberg was watching these scenes. He's like, this kid isn't working. Well, because apparently Stoltz was playing it darker. It was more intense.
It was seeing the clips.
Which again,
it does seem very emo. Even his clothing, everything.
Well, it just makes sense. You're told you've gone back in time and you're trying to make sure you survive. It seems much more survivalist. Yeah. It's more intense. And Michael J. Fox is like, you're telling me you made a time machine. And then he straightens up. Out of a DeLorean? Like, that's a comedic scene. And by the way, you said Family Ties.
Yeah.
The reason so much of the beginning of this is filmed at night, he was filming Family Ties during the day.
That's crazy.
The man never slept.
So in the
that same year, also Teen Wolf came out.
Yep.
Michael J. Fox is trying to kill people, right?
He was a machine.
Because he's like riding on top of cars. He's riding under cars. In this movie, he's sketching behind a truck of Bob Gale, the producer. He's like, we want kids to die. That's the only way Reaganomics works.
He dies.
But back to Family Ties. Yeah. It was great because he was this Reaganite. He was a conservative. That was the shtick of the show. A very liberal family.
The family was progressive, and he was like...
And he was a suit-wearing conservative that idolized Ronald Reagan. Because back in the 80s, conservatives adored Ronald Reagan. It was a thing.
Yeah, that's okay.
Go figure.
Shout out to black guy. That's fine. He was doing it both, and in the documentary, he was saying that he was contractually obligated to do both.
Right.
And he'd shoot this at 2 a.m. blah blah blah, and to the point where like he would fall asleep, and the person he'd have like a chauffeur or whatever would literally have to carry him up the stairs to his apartment. Putting him in bed, wake him up just to do these shoots, going back and forth. And it's crazy that that's how it was, because obviously he was a struggling young actor, selling everything, dodging his landlord because he couldn't pay rent. Then things started falling into place. But it's just crazy how, like, you mentioned Teen Wolf, Back to the Future, and Family Ties in the 80s. Come on, that's a lot. That's a lot of shit even for now.
Well, and so you've exposed yourself to embarrassing movie stuff in the past.
Yeah.
Mine is this movie. I've seen this movie probably more than any movie I've ever seen. And so, like, I've never been more emotionally involved than when Michael J. Fox was talking about his Parkinson's. I thought him and Christopher Lloyd and, like, the best actors of all time. Like, this movie is a movie that I've consumed more than anything. And so, like, and again, I sympathize, like, when I think it was Rush Limbaugh was making fun of his handicap. I've never hated a person more on this planet. Like, there's something about Michael J. Fox who is so infinitely, like, it's not even charming. It's charisma, and it's just like, he seems like such a nice...
Well, there's never been a scandal that I can recall about Michael J. Fox.
Or Chris Lloyd, or Tom Wilson. Like, all these people.
Here's the deal. There can be no scandal that's bad enough to make fun of anyone who has fucking Parkinson's.
Yeah.
It is literally, as someone who works in a hospital and deals with patients with Parkinson's, there's nothing sadder than when you try to hold them. The sense of your touch makes the shaking worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more upsetting than someone going, please help me stop shaking.
Yeah.
And you hold them and they shake worse.
Yeah.
It's really upsetting, y'all.
Yeah, my auntie had Parkinson's.
So it's, it's one of those things that I was quiet for a moment because I was, not because I was emotional, because fuck feelings. It was because I was looking I remember seeing a really cool episode, and that was, for those of you who love sci-fi like I do, the show Fringe. Fringe is one of my favorite shows of all time. Fringe, if you have not seen it.
Is the dude from Dawson's Creek in it?
Yes.
ING. There is a Fringe flashback in an April 2nd, 2010 episode where they are walking through the promenade and there's a movie theater and it says Back to the Future starring Eric Stoltz in it.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to think, I was like, what show was that in? And I was like, I must figure it out because, like just mentioning it isn't fucking enough. So if you'd like to know, please feel free to go to the French flashback episode that was originally shown on Friday, April 2nd, 2010, because I have issues. Continue.
So let's talk about so we did the plot synopsis, correct?
Did we?
I did.
I did the beginning of it. I did a really good job.
He goes back in
Until I
time.
got distracted.
Word?
So the very beginning, just for a second,
Yeah.
I love the Wallace and Gromit Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like he walks in and the dog and
God
like
bless Pee-wee, y'all.
R.I.P.D.
Oh,
Pee-wee.
yeah.
Pee-wee's Christmas special is my favorite Christmas special, only second to the Garfield Christmas special.
Start of this season, we did Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I just mentioned it because everything in that opening montage tells you the movie.
Yeah.
They even have the Harold Lloyd, like him hanging from the clock tower.
Oh.
It tells you everything. And when they pan to the TV story where they're like, who could tell where plutonium could possibly go? As the skateboard hits the box of radiation, dude.
Oh my God! Yeah,
Yep,
you're right. I didn't notice that.
Well, it's a classic. It's a beautiful example of
Foreshadowing.
a show, but not tell opening scene to introduce you to the characters.
It's like almost similar to how
like he goes in
Yeah.
and all these mad scientist things, Rube Goldberg machine that Doc Brown has set up to feed the dog.
Yeah.
And then you've got the, as Nick pointed out, the skateboard hitting the radioactive material. He plugs in his guitar. He plays it. You're getting a classic.
He gets blast.
And he gets
back. Ah!
But not to the future.
But not
But
to-
the point is that it's a beautiful show, but
Yeah.
not tell of who Michael J. Fox's character is, and then who he's supposed to meet. You learn more about this character before you even see it.
No, yeah, that's similar. Edgar Wright does it in his films, especially with Simon Pegg. They actually narrate the whole film.
Yeah, because as we go back to the original synopsis, we've met the DeLorean, and the fact that it's powered by plutonium that Doc Brown has currently swindled from the Libyan terrorists.
Yes, the Libyans.
God, remember when Libyan terrorists were the worst thing we had to worry about?
Yep.
That was a thing, y'all.
Yep.
Well, and I only want to interrupt the montage here
Yeah.
to say one thing, which is after he blows himself out the wall, which is incredible.
It's a big ass speaker.
Yep.
Or
Doc
speaker.
calls him to say, for some reason, all my clocks are 20 minutes late.
Yep.
And this is where we meet everyone else, which is his girlfriend.
Oh, come
We
on.
meet the principal.
You got to
who
do the
goes,
line.
You are a loser because your dad was a loser. And no McFly has ever done anything in this town. And also, I will never work in this state again.
You got to do the line when he realizes he's 20 minutes late. It's like, Doc, are you telling me?
You telling me?
It's 8:25? No, I'm just late to school. And then the power of love montage with the skateboard. Come on, that's my favorite opener. Yeah.
Well, skateboards were a thing back then.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean,
Still are now.
also, we have to just mention, we're not introduced to any of these beloved characters because we don't see Michael J. Fox until he wakes up out of the paint cans like it's Home Alone, right?
Yeah.
Like Home Alone 2. Doc, we haven't seen yet. And like, the first person we've met that we've talked about is his girlfriend, and Strickland, she's like, if you're late again, Strickland's gonna suspend you. And he's like, you're late, and this is your 5th suspension, so you're getting suspended. Which is just incredible. Like, we hear he's sketching, he does all the things. Like, and I only mention it because every bit of this movie is being established here because we're going back in time. The Texaco station that he sketches past. The producer who's wearing the Mountain Dew hat.
Oh yeah, well it's just it's downtown, it's City Hall, it's the square, if you will, and it's modern because it's all run down.
And we even
trash everywhere.
That's the 80s.
We even meet the mayor because there's an advertisement on the back of a truck, and he's a black guy. which only matters because we're going back to 1955, and the idea of a black mayor is just, it's out of
Insane.
Blazing Saddles. It's absurd.
Yeah, they could
It
have
worked in Blazing Saddles.
Where the white women at? Anyways, so
here.
I do want to speak. Just you mentioned not the principal, but the producer of the. So
Bob Gale. Yeah.
So okay. I guess I'm getting mixed up. So he at school after he's late for for being late. He is actually a musician and he's actually auditioning for the talent show.
Yes.
Which
yes, the Battle of the Bands, where the reviewer is.
Wait.
Come on, guys. You didn't know?
Huey.
Oh,
That was
my
Huey
God,
Lewis.
that was Huey Lewis.
Yeah, was he? That was
Huey
the whole
Lewis
thing.
in the news.
Because,
And he goes, "You're just too darn loud."
It just, I didn't realize
Huey,
that.
fuck Huey Lewis.
And also,
Why didn't I know
First of all, hey, fuck you. Sports is a great album.
yeah.
And also,
I'm gonna fight you.
what is it? The Pinheads? His band is the Pinheads. They never talk again because they lose the audition, and we never see any of them. The idea that you lose an audition and you don't have a beer with your buddies, no.
Yeah.
You never speak to those.
He
They're
was-
too loud. They're too
Also,
loud.
the
They're too darn
song,
loud.
the song he was playing, if I'm not mistaken, was the continuation of "Power of Love."
And by the way,
This was the only fucking song they could afford. That and Sandman. So, anyways,
all those doodles, you can't do those doodles. No.
oh, the little riffs and stuff. You
Yeah.
can't do that. Okay.
When you're auditioning, you keep it cool.
Hmm.
As I auditioned, you were there. You keep it subtle.
Hold on, what you audition for?
This group, Cineprov.
The best
Oh.
group that's ever been.
I didn't audition. I was asked to join
I
because
wasn't.
I'm a fucking gem.
Well, let me know when y'all doing.
Obviously.
Let me know.
I
When,
bring fucking jerky to the table,
She
and I hand
brings
that shit out like a fucking Oprah.
her
Everyone
milk.
can have jerky in this room.
Her
You
milk.
can have jerky. You can have jerky. Candace, over on the couch, you can have fucking jerky. You can have jerky. Nick. Done. Everyone's getting jerky.
Her
Done.
milkshake brings all them boys to the.
you want some jerky?
Of course she does. It's delicious. Obviously.
Okay, so
Let me know when the open auditions for.
Actually, yeah, maybe. Yeah, there's things in the works.
So we have to save the clock tower. So there you are. You're a foot shorter than your girlfriend. You're trying to make out with her. And then a lady is
You'll never
shaking.
know that life, Nick. You're a fucking giant.
Ah, fuck you, Nick.
You're
Sorry.
so fucking tall. It's dumb.
Yeah.
My girlfriend
Gross.
wants shorter people.
It's gross. So tall.
6 foot.
Save the clock tower!
Save the clock tower.
You won't save this orgasm,
It's like
but
me
you can
running
save it.
around with fucking flyers. I'm like, save the fucking plaza. And you're like, what is this fucking nut job? That was me.
I'm trying to score,
It's me.
bitch.
Right.
And so after losing the audition, the Pinheads have broken up.
Yeah.
Cla-
That's it, man.
Claudia Wells is like, you know what's great? My grandma's house. And Marty's like, you know what? I am shorter than you, but I'm a power bottom. And he's like, here's the thing.
That's right.
I want you. Can I call you girl? And she's like,
Hi.
save the clock tower. It's a powerful scene.
Well, that's Elsa Raven, the clock tower lady.
She is.
I mean, fair point. He did donate.
What else did she do?
What else did Elsa Raven?
What else did Elsa Raven?
Marty-
After
okay.
saving the
She
clock
was
tower,
on.
what else did she do?
She was in Titanic,
Back
What?
the Amityville Horror,
What?
Twilight Zone, the movie.
Stop.
I'm not kidding.
Do we mean the James Cameron Titanic?
Yeah.
I bet she was third fucking class.
Back to the present.
Ida Strauss. I don't know who that is.
I don't know
This is the old lady that was shaking change for
No.
the clock tower.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
either. Yeah.
Also, so this is 1985.
Wait, what year this movie came out?
I don't know.
85.
Okay.
I was born that year.
Oh, gross.
Oh
God.
Jesus! Why?
You're
Moving
fucking
on.
baby. That's gross.
Age
How
child.
many phone numbers did you know by heart? Because my grandparents wasn't one of them.
Say again?
How many phone numbers did you know by heart?
I knew at least 3.
Was it your grandparents?
Yeah.
Because she's like, I'm going to be with my grandparents. Can you give me? And she gives him the phone number. Power move. I don't know if I could have.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So after this, he pockets it because everything is important here. Because I will give this movie one thing:
the flyer that details how the clock tower was broken when lightning struck it.
Yeah.
In 1955, a Saturday night in 1955.
And on the back is her phone number because that also matters.
It was actually November 5th, just so you know, because my birthday is November 6th, because me and Candace are both Scorpios. Yes, bitch.
Oh, Savannah's birthday is November 6th. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So everyone in this room dates women that are Scorpios. I feel sad for y'all.
Well, hold up.
Everyone dates women.
Everyone that dates women
I got you.
dates a Scorpio.
I got you.
I feel
Also,
thoughts and prayers for y'all.
I know, right? I'm just relaxing.
Xanax and whiskey.
That's right.
I'm
Same girl.
I'm staying silent. So, anyway.
So, moving on, in case apparently significant others are listening in.
You don't need money.
But, so he pockets this flyer. It has a telephone number on one side, and it has the details about when the clock tower gets hit by lightning.
That's right.
So we should, and then we have the home scene, which is fantastic. I mean, because again, if this is foreshadowing, this sets the.
You need to establish the family dynamic before he goes back in time.
Are you talking about the fact that his mom's an alcoholic, his dad is sad, and that his
and Biff shows up? Hello.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
But also,
hello, McFly.
Is this the biggest loser dad in history?
Yeah.
Because so there's a.
I'm not saying like if I see someone in a pocket square and I'm like, come on, man, just no.
So there's.
It's because he's weak and indecisive, and that's gross.
Yeah. You
And
really
we
hate.
hate that.
You really hate weak men.
It's because I'm a really strong woman, and you got to be really strong to hang with me.
You go, girl. Yeah.
That's why I like y'all.
Oh, I'm weak as baby shit.
You're not. You're adorable.
Oh,
That's
no.
a difference.
That's different. Yes, thank you.
It's totally
Yes.
different.
Yeah.
You're strong but inquisitive.
No, that's the point.
Yeah.
You asked questions.
Right.
I don't know anything.
What's a furry?
And okay.
Here's the butt plug.
No. Daniel, if you're editing this, if I edit it, I'm not going to cut this out.
You better keep it in this butt plug, or I swear to God, I
We
will come
want
for
the
you.
butt plug to stay
We're trying
in.
to diversify the audience to the furry community. You're welcome. I wanted to learn
Daniel,
more.
I just
Daniel,
think
I'll
of
send
a
you
butt.
pics later.
I think of
Do
a
it.
butt
Keep it
plug.
in, girl.
I think of a butt plug as a punctuation mark in some ways.
I mean,
More
it
like an
is sometimes the end of a
exclamation
sentence.
point, but you know, hey.
Yeah! Candace, you agree?
or
Yes, girl.
or a
She
semicolon.
gets it.
No.
I mean, it could start a new sentence. It could start a new sentence.
because the silent was
Sometimes it depends on if you had enough beforehand. I got you, yeah.
The butt, some small intestine. You send me there.
Not the small intestine. Girl, don't bring the small intestines into this.
Anyways,
She owes me $350.
Where were we?
back to the podcast.
Wait,
We
what are
were
you
back-
sticking up your butt if it's going into the small intestine?
There's been
Can you get through
There's-
the small intestine through the butt?
No, you can't. Well,
You
you
can't?
can, but there's
I've never tried, but
there's a
just-
large intestines in between. So,
Oh, okay.
anyways,
Where does the poop come out?
All right, so we're moving on
We're
at this
moving-
point. Hey, tell me about this movie.
Yeah. So, anyways, we've met the family. We've met the family dynamic.
We met the family.
We've realized that
Stop,
Marty
stop,
feels
stop,
sad.
stop, stop,
Yeah.
stop, stop.
Don't
Yeah.
need money.
Go ahead, lead us,
No,
Nick.
because
You're a
this
leader.
is the important
No,
part
it is
here.
important. You need
Because-
to establish
Yeah.
that his mother's an alcoholic
Yes.
and overweight.
Which I already
Well,
said.
and-
Yes. Continue.
was
And
overweight.
The dad is a pushover
Yes.
for Biff Tannen.
Right.
Because the whole idea is that Marty, when he gets home, is supposed to be going with the Pinheads camping.
Yeah.
But in actuality, he's going with his girlfriend.
Well, he's a pushover to the whole family. Everyone walks all over George McFly.
And that and that's
his kids, his wife, everyone.
Well, and that's why when the band fails, he's worried it's a reflection upon what his family already is, which is what he views to be a failure.
Yep.
The brother Joey's in jail.
Yep.
Mother's an alcoholic. Dad is being ran over by his abusive boss.
who
So that's the deal. And now we're eventually Marty's going to be meeting Doc Brown at the Twin Peaks Mall.
the only thing sadder is everything is generational. because it's not his brother.
Yeah.
It's the uncle. It's the idea that the bully is the guy who bullied him in high school. And all of us were probably passively aggressed from high school. But the idea that...
Nor were you bullied in high school?
I was a theater kid in the barbershop quartet. I was the only black.
Did you do high school here in Georgia, or were you like still
in Georgia? He taught me. Yeah. No.
Totally.
I learned so much.
All right.
Hoffman taught me how to curve a
What about
test.
you? Were you bullied, or were you clever in that you were like, I'm the funny kid, so I'm everyone's friend?
I was clever.
Okay.
But occasionally I stepped into being a little bit of a bully.
See, I was the clever kid in that I was plus size. I was obviously queer. So, but I was never bullied because I was funny. And so everyone kind of like steered clear of me because if they did bully me, I would, before people knew what it was, I would drag them for trash. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, oh, Candace is so funny. She's such a comedian. And I'm like, no, it's a coping skill, you dumb fucks. But
I don't think I also went to a school that had a grade that was larger than 100 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
very intimate.
Yeah. So it's hard to build cliques when there's so few people.
That's true. What about you, Nick?
Well, I will say this because I know you appreciate it, but I was the funny kid, of course, who would have been surprised. But no one thought I was the person writing the stuff. I wrote it anonymously.
Yo.
And there was faculty meetings about me because I had an underground paper that would appear in other schools.
Oh my God, you were like the Bridgerton kind of bullshit. Oh my God, were you the fucking thick girl on Bridgerton?
But
you were.
I was. Ah! But I will say too that when I came back to teach, I was a place where the LGBT kids would come.
Oh my God, were you the homeroom where the queer kids could hang out? Oh my God, yes! Gay homeroom, yes! As it should be. I love that.
I mean, at the end of the day, that was it. Because I was bad at everything else, including my grades. But at one point, apparently, they had a faculty meeting about the things I was writing.
Yeah.
And there was another underground paper. Yeah. And they were like, oh no, this guy's okay. The other ones more problematic.
Oh my God.
So they protected me.
Wow.
And they pretended I was someone else to get rid of it.
That's anyway. A vibe. I'm living for that.
Yeah, no.
Candace, were you like hanging out on the down low?
She knew me in college, and that's who I was. But I was not charming then.
But who were you in high school? I want to know. I was a band nerd. Were you a band nerd? Yeah, tell me about it. Yummy. I want to hear about it.
So
for the NSA.
Spot. Hi. So I was a band nerd and a nerd. Like I was in baseball. And
okay.
Except for them teddies. Continue.
And I was drama adjacent. So like I was in like one play,
no
but
drama
mostly
adjacent.
Mostly I was
not
like
the pit crew.
No, I was paid orchestra or tech crew. So that's what I mean by drama adjacent.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Alrighty. So
I love hearing about this.
Just for a second, I want to talk about one of my favorite scenes that have ever happened in film ever.
Is this from the Debbie Does Dallas component?
So there her tits are.
Oh.
Now, just Marty, you've got to wake up. It's 1 a.m. Grab me my camcorder because I want to tell you what's happening. And I just
Marty, are you asleep?
Yeah.
No.
Wait, hold on. Before we go deeper, wait, is my mic on? I accidentally said okay. How did Doc and Marty meet? Because I went on a rabbit hole on Reddit to protect some theories.
What? Okay,
was it ever established how they met?
No, it's not. So I want to ask you what you think you found.
So someone had said that Doc, who invented time travel, felt somehow responsible because somehow in the near future or something like that, Marty died, and it was Doc's fault. So so the whole premise is Doc trying to redid his mistakes, hence, some scientific cause of Doc's reasoning caused Marty to die.
I have never been so enamored with a moment here on on Myopia.
That's an
Continue.
interesting. I like
That's
that.
an interesting
Yeah.
thought.
That's a-
Oh, it was a
All
good.
right.
No, I didn't make this shit up. I read it from somewhere else.
Okay,
I'm not
all
that
right.
clever. Yeah.
So I think it's interesting because if there's a theme to this movie,
Yeah.
it's about masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Marty's dad may be one of the greatest losers in all time movie history. And Biff Tannen, on the other hand, might be the greatest bully that has ever existed.
Yeah.
And so my idea is Marty maybe one day is looking for help with a chemistry class because he's supposed to be a high school student and finds someone to help him and is immediately attached to anyone else with mildly masculine characteristics. Because, like, if this movie is anything, it's about ideology, and we'll get to it eventually, but Crispin Glover, who plays the dad,
Yep.
was so upset with the ending of this movie because the ending of this movie is supposed to be that being successful means being a capitalist strong suit, being a Reagan hero, that he refused to be in any of the sequels because he's like, this movie has the wrong message.
Yeah.
That is just interesting to say that, like, Marty's hero should be a dude who does anything because his dad is such a loser.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's kind of the plot in some ways. It's just not saying that there's any satisfactory answer with how he met Doc, but, like, to me, it's that his dad is such a loser, he's looking for any other male.
Yeah, no,
figure.
I get father figure is someone confident who's smart, and if you go into the movie, who had money to a sense, you know, at one point.
Well, and we learned that at least Doc is driven because he has this mansion. He's willing to sell anything to make that vision come true.
Yeah.
And his dad is always a loser who can't put his
But
foot down.
he's got goals and he's working towards them. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who Doc Brown is a guy who dreams and pursues his dreams.
Right.
Marty is a guy who dreams and is trying to pursue his dreams, but is afraid that he's going to turn out like his father, who never bothered to pursue his dreams.
Okay. No, I like that. I like all of the theories.
Yeah.
But to the Twin Pines Mall.
Which, to me, again, is the greatest scene of all time. Marty is, like, asleep. He has suspenders like the 80s would have wanted.
I had suspenders in the 80s.
Oh, you beautiful
They
man.
were bright blue.
Ooh.
And hold up. They were Swatch suspenders.
Whoa.
The
I
what?
would like you to know,
Swatch?
my father had a Swatch watch for 1996 Olympics when the Swatch people came here to Atlanta
They did.
and opened up a store simply to like sell Olympic watches. And I remember my father went, "This is really important. You need to be on your best behavior." Because I was a scene even then. And I walked in that place and I was like, "It's a watch store." And he was like, "No, it's
No.
more than that."
No,
It was a
swatches.
Swatch
It's a
store.
Swatches were
lifestyle.
It was a
everything.
Swatch store.
Swatches
It
were
was
everything.
the Swiss. You are not ready for the Swiss, motherfucker.
The Swatch.
The
Not-
most amazing thing I've ever.
If
It was
you- if
amazing.
you-
And my dad still has that watch.
Oh,
And we still have to acknowledge it like it's my fucking inheritance.
I had two Swatches.
Yes, you had two Swatch.
I had two plus my Swatch suspenders.
Boy, you were styling back in the day.
I was
All
styling
right.
back in the day.
Bitch, are you rich? Do you need Are you a sugar daddy? And I'm not
No,
aware.
no.
Hey,
This-
Hey,
I
you
had-
want a platonic
this is the
relationship with me?
I was a poor kid
Yeah.
with rich grandparents, so
Oh.
I was every year at Christmas I got these weird clothes that I didn't know what to make of them, so
Yeah.
I just wore them.
Yeah.
And people were like, "That's like, why are you wearing Guess jeans?" Oh no.
You're
You-
like, because
you knew.
Mama
You knew.
is loaded.
Well, after
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
told me, like, actually, I had these shoes that had like a rooster on it, and someone told me that they're very expensive, and I was like, really? And apparently they were. Can't remember to this day what brand it was.
Cock.
Cock
That's a good-
Roosters are cocks.
Cock Sporting. Cox Sporting.
Cox Sports is a very different website.
No, seriously, I swear. Anyway, point is, I had a swatch.
That's
I had
right.
2 swatches,
Wow.
and I even had the rubber swatch protectors.
Stop.
I know. Shut my mouth.
Shut your fucking mouth.
So,
God damn it. I want to
12
see shit.
minutes into this movie.
Going back to 1985.
Going
Suspenders.
back to 1996. where
He was
Claudia
in bed
was
with
king.
suspenders on, and he slipped those suspenders up, and
Sure
he
did.
is ready to go out that door. Because
Ready.
all you need in the 80s to go out to a mall at 2 a.m. is a pair of suspenders and a smile.
And
a
the
line of
power
blow.
glove.
And damn it. I hate y'all.
On
I
a
knew you were gonna say that.
skateboard. On a
Yes.
skateboard.
Skateboard. To the
So, he gets a JVC camcorder, as you would.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And he goes, so I'm Dr. Emmett L. Brown. On the side of the truck, it says Emmett Brown Science Services, which is just good on him.
Yeah.
And he describes the fact that this DeLorean, because you might as well go in style,
Hell yeah.
it
Go in
uses
style.
plutonium. And he goes, plutonium, Doc? And he goes, well, this is electrical, but you need something for an extra oomph.
You need that fusion to get to how much?
88 miles per hour.
And
With 1.21
generate enough electricity.
1.21 gigawatts.
1.21 gigawatts.
Yes, 1.21 gigawatts.
Now,
which
I
is
wanna-
technically 142 kilometers per hour.
So
You're welcome.
so
I did
Thanks,
math
Google.
before the show.
So this movie was like a big commercial for the DeLorean, right? Because
Was it though?
Kind of.
No. By that time, the
wasn't.
DeLoreans were like,
And by the
DeLoreans were
way,
done.
If
They
you
were
were doing a
done.
commercial, would you want the car to never start on time? Because at the end he goes, and then it dies.
Yeah.
But I will just say, when he does that thing, when his face drops and he goes, my God, they found me. I don't know how they found me.
The
You're just like,
Libyans.
holy shit.
You feel sad for him.
But-
For a minute, you're scared about the Libyans. Then you think, where is Libya?
I mean, I would be
Well,
pissed
no,
off.
no.
You went
In
to
85,
American public schooling.
In
You're not sure
85.
exactly where Libya is on the map.
in 85, they just stolen the Lockerbie plane. I mean, this is the
Oh.
Lockerbie bombing. This is like the
Ooh.
Libyans were the biggest terrorists in the world at the time. But I will say too,
P.S. This is actually the CIA.
Well, so to point in how he got the stolen plutonium, so he had an agreement with the Libyan terrorists
Yeah.
to make a
Bomb.
bomb.
to build them a bomb.
But anyway, he just stole it for himself and gave him a suitcase full of ping pong balls or something like that.
you had a pinball ballers, which we get at the beginning, where where as we're panning across, he goes, the newsreel says, it turns out that the missing nuclear technology was just an error in counting. And so we're established that in the first 7 seconds of this movie.
Yep.
Again, it's a well-structured film.
Well, how are you supposed to know that first time watching?
You wouldn't.
I mean, I gotta tell you, I just found that out right now.
Yeah.
I was literally
Yeah,
40 years
This
old.
movie is super
I was
tight.
today years old when I realized
tight.
this happened.
yeah. Because I wasn't noticing that
I
in
didn't
opening
notice
scenes.
that.
I was
Wow.
noticing.
Are
the
you fucking kidding
burnt
me?
toast and the thing with the
I
can
was-
opener.
Yeah, I was busy like thinking, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is the Libyans show up and they're all stunt drivers, which we'll get to later. But they kill Doc.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden we've lost the charisma on that end of the movie.
Yep.
And Marty looks at him dying and then he's like, you bastards. And then they notice there's a witness, which is, by the way, if you're the witness, shut the fuck up. But
You know
then
why
he
people
gets
can't
in the
stay
car.
flyers.
wearing
Right.
a bright yellow radiation.
Listen, it
suit.
gives us a reason for him to head back to 1955, which
To the
is where the
future.
movie really starts.
because Doc during the video that
Yeah.
Marty was recording
Yeah.
puts in details, and what he decides to punch in for the time is this night in 1955 where he fell off of a toilet,
Yep.
bumped his head,
Yep.
and dreamed up the flux capacitor,
He
which
was-
is key to time travel.
He was killing himself,
Somehow.
right? You know?
Yep.
There I was standing on the toilet, which is code word for suicide. And
Yo! For real? I thought you were just hanging a painting that happened to me on the
how
toilet.
many paintings are behind your toilet?
I have
And
a painting,
so high
I have
up
a painting
that-
behind
and
my
how
toilet.
many and how many are so
Is it
high up
erotic?
that you have to stand on a toilet seat to?
It's a
No,
B-52
that's
poster
low-key
for my friend
depressing.
that passed away.
Because
Yeah.
at the point, like, I mean, we'll
Awkward.
get to it, but he does seem like a failure.
Yeah. No.
Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness!
But okay, so of course the Libyans show up, they murder Doc, and Marty McFly, basically screams at them and jumps into the DeLorean.
And I just want to mention here, this is the greatest practical effects of this movie.
Oh,
Because-
yeah.
They put the dog Einstein back in time. It goes back in time. Doc is explaining via exposition what's going on. They only put the dog back in time, or ahead in time, a minute. The timers line up. It's incredibly well done.
Yep.
And then mid explanation, Doc goes, "My God, they found me. How did the emotion change? It's
Yeah.
incredible
His
acting."
emotion, his face.
Yeah, I mean, let's
crestfallen.
face it, Christopher Lloyd carries the film.
All time.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, he's fantastic.
he's an amazing actor.
So
What?
we now arrive back in 1955.
Yeah.
The pines.
Yeah.
They got a pine.
Marty discovers he has no plutonium to return.
Hold on. Yes.
All
but,
right.
but before we get there,
Yeah.
we need to point out Pa Peabody.
Oh, people. Which he mentions in 1985 about him wanting to breed pine trees.
Pine trees.
Pine
There should be
trees.
nothing but
Yeah.
pine
There's
trees
nothing
back
but
in
pine
that.
Exactly. Well, it's important to note because if you're familiar with Will Hare, who plays Pa Peabody,
I am not.
then you know he was the creepy grandpa in Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Stop.
Right?
I never put that together.
Previously on.
I've
If you've not seen Silent
I've
Night-
never seen
If you've
Silent
not
Night.
seen Silent Night, Deadly Night, you've got to watch it.
I had
I-
no idea.
Required viewing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
But he was creepy grandpa in Silent Night, Deadly Night. So I was like, I saw that and I'm like, what?
Yeah. And then I believe so. He goes back to 1955, going 88 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up in a farm.
that was- that was
yeah.
Pa Peabody's farm.
Harvey Bally's farm, and his kid comes out, and he thinks it's a sci-fi alien.
Well, because he's got a picture of his comic books
Of-
that
yeah.
shows someone that looks like
hmm And then Marty emerges from the barn. He was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, quick, shoot him before he goes in he's turned into his human form." Marty goes back into the DeLorean and
yeah,
splits out.
splits out.
But he hits not one pine tree.
Yeah.
He hits one pine tree, which will explain at the end what the significance was.
Exactly.
Because if no spoilers, but the mall that they were at in 1985 was called Twin
That's right.
2 Pine Tree Mall.
Twin Pines.
Twin Pines Mall, sorry. And he runs over one of those pines in 1985.
That's right.
Boom. Just little details.
Well,
that I love about this
So
movie.
once Marty is back, he encounters his teenage father and discovers Biff bullying George even then.
Mr. Sam.
Yeah, but real quick, it's the contrast. Remember how I mentioned that basically, in 1985, this downtown area
Yeah.
is dirty and there's
Yeah.
a bum sleeping on the bench
Yeah.
and there's trash everywhere. Well, this is a pristine
That's right.
downtown, and that's what's supposed to tell you something's wrong.
Well, and it's supposed to
Again,
be,
show not tell.
and it's a reference to the idea that the 1950s was the optimistic era.
Yes,
and the
it was
80s
pure
is a very
time.
cynical era, and that crime is on the rise, which was true.
Yep.
And he was supposed to be tough on crime. And so the second he appears in the middle of nowhere, he's wearing his vest and they make fun of his fashion. Aren't you supposed to be a sailor?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Did
But-
you jump ship?
And,
So-
but when he gets into town, the ladies are like, first of all, the woman's like, "Drive, Harold, drive," which is a different story altogether. But when he gets to town, they're playing like Johnny Angel, and they're playing all this like
Mr.
awesome-
Sandman.
Right. And before he even gets to town, George falls into the path of the oncoming car while spying on teenage Lorraine. So Marty is knocked unconscious while saving him.
And let's talk about the sexual politics of no.
Let's not do that until I get over there to your
Their whole family's fucked up if you think about it. The dad's a weak nerd.
Yeah.
The mother is a whore in a sense,
she's called sex positive.
Well, I
but
guess
back then it would be a whore, but nowadays
in 1955,
we just call it.
As I think
She would
about
have
it,
voted for Kennedy twice.
Yeah. She's here for it.
It's a whole thing, and in that sweet story that the mother told in 1985, how me and your father met.
Wait,
at
the fishes under the sea.
After Grandpa
I
hit him with a
underwear
car
on my hope chest, which is a strong series.
Pants. He was wearing his underwear, which he mistakenly
His
called
name
it
is Calvin Klein.
Because the name was written in his underwear.
Obviously.
Did y'all do that?
What?
Wait,
Hold
stop.
up. Did you ever go to summer camp as a kid?
No, wait, stop.
I went to 4-H.
No, all
I
of
went
you.
to 4-H camp, and I was a mighty Muskogee.
Did you ever
eat my asshole?
He has. Hold on.
Did you ever do what?
Wait.
Have your name written in your underwear.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you put. We said.
No. Have you ever gone back in time and got hit on by your mother?
No.
Did you ever want to fuck your
bitch,
mom?
we haven't.
No, God, were you a motherfucker? No.
Excuse me.
No.
We said put pants on a hope chest. We said have name and underwear.
No.
And you want to put name do what?
This is why I know you don't listen to me, because obviously Charlie knew what I was talking about. Anyways, did you put your name on your underwear? No, I didn't go to
Camp?
If you went to camp, you put your name in your underwear.
Why?
I went
Because
to camp.
everyone wore the same shit.
No.
Disgusting.
No, sir.
Everyone
I
wore
went to
the same
fucking
pair
camp.
of underwear.
I was at 4-H camp, okay? Also known as
Put your name on
lesbian
your
camp.
tractor.
And we never... Our
Hold
tractor,
up.
right?
I don't know about women,
Yeah.
but most, I'll tell you,
Okay.
everyone in my cabin
Yeah.
had their name written in their underwear. Why? Because they told us to do it.
Was it? Hold on. Was it no? When
Name
were
on your
briefs
tampons or what?
invented?
No.
When were briefs invented? Was it just all whitey bodies?
Bitch, did you just ask
Hold
for
up.
briefs?
Okay, in the
Because I don't. Everyone's wearing these whitey toddies, little speedo top underwear. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Shit, now I gotta look that shit up. I hate you.
Because
nerd.
the minute I was introduced to boxers, I'm like, all right, this is nice and it's not restricting. And then briefs, I haven't gone back since.
That's fair.
Watch it be like 1985.
Marty, you've got to come back with me. To where? The future.
Modern men's underwear
Yes.
was largely an invention of the 1930s.
Okay.
On January 19th of 1935, Coppers Incorporated sold the world's first briefs in Chicago.
1935.
So were you alive in 1935?
There Al
Bitch,
Capone
you were.
was.
They already fucking existed. Nor, come on.
All right.
God damn it.
It was just like maybe it wasn't.
My
that-
pines! He ruined the pine!
All right, so Marty's mom is
There's shit
trying
on the wrong
to.
movie. Let me go back.
All right, Marty.
She's trying to.
Thirstiest
She's
mom.
trying. Yeah, she is thirsty. She's trying to seduce him.
Yeah, I
She's
feel
like
girl.
making a note that she saw his underwear
Who
and
took
his
off his
name
pants?
written on it.
Presumably she
She
did.
did.
Because
She
she
took off
gonna
her
shit my mom.
No,
You need to put your
listen,
pants back on.
It's because he's laying in the bed, and that's just polite.
Yeah.
Just have
Obvious.
to breathe on
Oh,
someone.
yes.
Yeah, no outside
Yes.
clothes. Inside,
Someone
yeah.
ever
You
lose
don't put your
consciousness?
fucking shoes or your pants in the fucking bed, Nor.
I mean, last time Candace
I don't-
passed out at my house, I just breathed on her until she woke up.
You're not wrong, dude.
Do that Terminator.
Not the Terminator, bro.
Dun, 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 dun.
Soon.
The tapestry. The tapestry of it all.
I also, just as we're here,
yeah.
let's just reset on the scene,
Uh-huh.
which is when they're in the diner, and Marty goes, "I'd like a Pepsi free. You can't have a free."
You've gone too far.
hold on.
You're going too far.
I want a tab.
Yeah.
I can't give you a tab until you order something.
That's right.
Yeah.
I want a Pepsi free. I'm not going to give you a Pepsi for free. You have to pay for it.
That's
And then
right.
he's like,
Give me some.
fine, give me something without sugar.
And he gives him
Coffee.
black coffee, and he goes into the phone booth. If this was the 80s, is there a phone book in the entire decade that has all the pages?
Well, I was amused. That they actually had the authenticity of the 5-digit phone number.
They did it right. Klondike.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
Okay, Nor.
Oh, this is one of those sweet summer child moments.
Oh, honey. What do you mean 5 digits? Isn't there 10? Hold on.
Daddy,
Okay,
tell us the story, Daddy.
First of all,
I have 10 numbers.
We're
in
ready.
My phone number.
yes,
We're ready.
You
yes.
think there was 5?
Okay, so the farthest number is the national code, then you have the area code, and then you have the district code, and then you have the personal code.
Yeah.
And so
I only know the area code and what you just said.
Back in the day, all you needed was the last 5 digits in the way that you now need the last 4 digits of your social security number. And so you would
Which
do
should not be used for identification,
And-
by the way, per
And
original law, but I'm not going to fucking go into
and
that.
when I was in the 80s,
calm those
I
titties.
did 7-digit dialing.
So phone numbers in the
Sports
80s
bra.
were only 7 numbers?
Yes.
Thank God this thing is so
Word.
fucking tight.
If you
Swear to
use
God. My
if
fucking
you
teddies are
used
so-
an area code,
Hold on, we're trying to talk about history.
I'm sorry,
Talking
I
about
was talking
titties
about
over here.
my sports bra. It's awful.
Yes, there. Yes.
I was telling him that in the 80s,
He had
I
7
used
numbers.
7 digits.
Yeah.
7-digit dialing.
Yeah.
Because if you use an area code, you were dialing long distance, and your ass was going to be whooped.
It'd be
Well-
like $3 a minute, and then after 10 o'clock, you could do it on a certain phone, but not all phones.
Not all phones, but
Otherwise, you get your fucking ass fucking
ass.
torn the
Torn
fuck
up.
up.
Well, and while those older people are yelling at you, I
Yes.
just want to reference the fact that, as Charlie mentioned earlier,
How many numbers did you have growing
well,
up?
no,
Yeah, okay.
I'm a bit younger, but not much. But only to say here that Charlie said the 5,
Yeah.
because in the 80s, the fact that it was 7 was the fact that, oh my God, could you imagine? Like that's
Exactly.
the throwback.
But like you trying to imagine the 7-digit in the 80s, they were trying to. Everyone was doing 7-digit, trying to imagine the 5.
So when it went to 10?
because Atlanta now has almost 8 million people
not just
in the surface
Not just
area.
Atlanta, but
Atlanta's
also
fault.
like most major metropolitan areas
Yeah.
are 10-digit dialing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. More I know.
You just have you just
Stop
have to
having
remember
kids.
that it's
We're done.
not just
That's
an
all.
8-digit number or 10-digit number. It's actually a 10-digit number because that's how many people live in the area.
I got you.
Right? That's how many phone numbers are literally in the area.
When you listen to Myopia Movies, you just learn. You
You
That's
can
right.
learn.
We're on the AP curriculum now.
when I moved to Atlanta,
I'm a 5.
when I moved to Atlanta in 1999, 2000, it was the first place I ever lived where I could use an area code and not be charged long distance for it.
Yeah?
Right.
Really?
Yep. With a landline.
I've lived here my whole life, so I've always known this weird expansion.
So I lived
Yeah.
in Ohio. So after I sent out the smoke signals, I had
You lived in the best damn band in the land.
I did.
Yes.
And
I
also,
I'm gonna perform with them next year, by the way. But totally continue. We're done.
All right.
I put your
so-
pants on my hope chest.
So she put
Gross.
his pants on her hope chest, and then
We all hope for pants.
She leaves the room, and he's freaking out because it's his mom hitting on him.
Yeah.
Oh shit! It's my dad.
And
so-
because that hope chest is made of cedar, that's expensive.
right.
What's
Yeah.
a hope chest?
Oh,
It's where you hope for.
it's
Okay.
It's like a chest
Y'all
you
just
put
don't
shit
explain
in that
things
you
to
like
me.
dream of. And
At one point, I texted Nora. I'm like, "You do realize this means that she's killed dozens of people?" And he goes, "Word." And then and so the whole thing was, outside of her window where she apparently just changes with her shades up. Dudes just watch her. And the way we know this is George McFly is staring at them titties, girl. And he falls out of the tree.
With binoculars.
That's important.
And
Per the dictionary, a hope chest is a chest containing a household linen and clothing stored by a woman in preparation for her marriage.
for her losing that V chart.
Thank you.
Fuck that dumb cunt. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So
dumb. You know what?
anyway, so the story is originally Marty's parents met because he
Exhausting.
was hit by her dad's car.
Mhm.
Turns out he was staring at them titties, girl.
Who wouldn't?
He falls out of the tree. Marty sees him do it, shoves him out of the way, and then Marty's hit.
Yeah.
And then the
So
dad
Marty
goes,
replaces the father.
yeah. And then the dad goes, oh shit, I hit another kid. And then you realize
That there's a lot of
there's
men
a lot of people just staring
who
at
just
her.
climb up in the tree, staring at Lorraine.
And a lot of them are buried in like Staten Island somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
what to
apparently
tell ya.
they fall out of the tree a lot and get hit by her father.
So it's maybe a ruse. I'm kidding.
So anyway, he puts on he puts on his pants and he
As you
exits
do.
and has dinner with the family.
With his family.
And
Well,
this is
with
where we get
his-
a lot of stuff.
With his
Uncle,
aunts and uncles
grandma.
and grandparents.
Uncle Joey,
With Uncle
who's
Joey.
hanging out with in the playpen,
And that's
which
where
is
he's
only
strangely
ironic
comfortable.
because he is in Marty's future. He is a fugitive who hangs out in the pen.
yeah.
Because
Better get used to these
Get it?
bars, kid.
Yeah.
Great
Oh,
line.
it's
It's
so
a good
fucking
line.
clever.
And then you have
It's
and then,
not.
and then they
Sorry.
the big thing is they roll a television in front and they're watching the honeymooners. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen this one." And they're like, "It's a first run."
but it's a rerun.
Yeah, and he's like, "No, it's a rerun." And they're like, "What's a rerun?"
Yeah.
Played
He
by
got-
played by Jason Hervey from Wonder Years.
Oh,
He's the
That
brother
was a
from
great
Wonder
show,
Years.
by the way. I remember
Great
that
show.
as a kid.
And
That
apparently
being a great show.
strange-
When Wendy's
Yeah.
brother dies in Vietnam.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
spoilers.
But strangely enough, he was also a VP of communications at Health South in Birmingham back in the early 2000s.
Interesting.
No shit.
Yeah.
So acting didn't work out.
Well, he went back to acting.
Oh, guess it did work out.
Yeah.
Well,
So he rolls the TV.
well, but it's just like, again, this is supposed to be contradictory to the 80s.
It's showing the differences between the time frames.
Yeah.
It's
Two
nobody
TVs.
would have enough money for two TVs.
Well, how much was a
obviously.
TV back in the 80s?
$1 trillion.
You know, you know what? I
Well,
will take a moment and
so
I will look it up on
technology-
my
Here's-
special magic
Your
phone.
supercomputer.
Here's some
Yeah.
here's some things to think about.
Right.
Okay. Technology was expensive
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Okay.
So imagine earlier it was even more. Like I can tell you, like my first computer, like that my dad brought home, was like $1,500. And the only
Yeah.
reason we had that computer is because my dad ran a computer shop. Okay. And I didn't know anyone who had one. So you think about how much $1,000, $1,500.
In the 80s, inflation. That's
Yeah.
a fucking chunk of change.
You're talking a chunk of change.
yeah.
So I mean, when houses cost $30,000 and brand new cars are bought for $7,000.
Okay, so
Reaganomics.
All right. So,
No, we-
along with shelling out about $500 for a 20-inch television TV in 1985, you risked a hernia as well because you were spending about $1,195 based on inflation. And today's weight of a 24-inch television color TV would be about $149.99 bucks. So there you go.
There you go. Okay,
Technology.
so anyway,
Math.
that scene wraps up, and it's very clear that Lorraine is infatuated because she can't take her eyes off of him. She keeps staring at him all moon-eyed. It was sickening. Absolutely terrible. So anyway, that wraps up and we move into the next day. And everyone's quiet.
It's because I'm still looking about televisions. Wow. I had no idea. I was thinking about like the prices you were talking about. I remember being like 13 years old and the importance of having internet. And my parents were like, computers are dumb. It's a fad. We're not going to buy this. And I remember working at like McDonald's to buy a computer and to buy internet. And it was totally dumb and useless. But,
hey,
I loved it.
You were innovative.
I was living that life.
So,
all right. So all right. So now I'm back from AOL 1990, whatever.
So,
right.
So
Marty,
now back in 1955. After going through downtown, we've met his dad, who's a loser.
Yeah.
But he then tries to find Doc Brown.
Yep.
And Doc answers the door wearing this amazing hat.
This hat that apparently is supposed to let him read brainwaves. And so he's trying to guess who Marty is. And it's just failing left and right.
But it's the physicality of Chris Lloyd, because he opens the door, slams it in his face, and he's wearing the hat.
Yep.
And he's like, you were part of the
Which, by
youth
the way,
auxiliary.
the hat is a spaghetti colander.
there in case.
And it just has a bunch of random shit on it. And I could know because I've built it for a Dragon Con costume once.
He
so,
does.
yeah.
Marty's able to make 1985 technology,
Yeah.
play video cassettes on a 1955 television.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how that works.
Well, before that,
Magic.
it's
Science.
Marty trying to explain to Doc who he is, where he's from, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, yes.
Which this has my favorite line. Doc asks Marty, and I want you to play Doc in this scene, okay? or
I'll do it.
Okay, all right.
He'll do
Center myself.
all right. So ask me who the president is.
So who's the president?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan, the actor. The actor.
Favorite line in that whole.
The actor?
The actor.
Who's the Secretary of State? Jerry Lewis. By the way, pretty solid cabinet for 1985.
Better
now
presidency.
the reason. So basically, this whole scene,
Yeah.
Doc Brown does not believe him at all
Right.
until Marty says, "Hey, I came back to this time because last night you invented the flux capacitor when you fell off your toilet."
Which is the thing that makes time travel
Work.
possible.
That's right.
And he opens the door and he goes, and he looks at him. And it's those crazy eyes which makes the movie.
Yeah, it's those crazy Christopher Lloyd eyes. And he pulls him back in, and that's when, of course, the video camera is plugged into the television. He's watching it, and they're trying to determine how to recreate it. And he's
What
explaining.
the hell's a gigawatt?
And he's like, "Oh yes, it's 1.21 gigawatts. 1.21 gigawatts."
I'm sure 1.21 gigawatts is readily available at your local radio shack.
And then
Whatever.
he pulls out a picture of Thomas Edison and starts having a conversation with him. "I have failed you. I have failed you." And you're just like,
man.
seriously? Okay.
Well, I also like the idea that this whole movie is a thing about potential.
Yeah.
Because he's like, how can we do this? But it's just like, you've done it in the past. We can do it again.
Exactly. Well, and of course he's like, to generate that type of electricity, you'd have to have a lightning bolt. And no one knows when that's going to happen. And of course, Providence.
We know from the flyer.
We know
in
from
his
the flyer.
pocket.
And I just want
when
to...
the clock tower was struck, which is apparently next Saturday night.
And I just, as a plot thing in general, this is so good. The end of this movie I've seen 1,000 times, and I still think he's not going to make it. You know what I mean? And yet, just planting the seeds here. You've got to make it.
Well,
I have the cheat code.
And this is the moment at which Doc Brown looks at Marty's picture.
Yeah.
And determines that Marty has changed the timeline and his family is being erased.
Yeah.
Now,
and he goes something like, I could stay a week here. What's the big deal? And he goes, you haven't interacted with anyone, right? And he goes, well, actually,
maybe my parents. And he asks to see the picture. And sure enough, his brother, his eldest brother, obviously the first one being born, is his head is missing. He's disappearing from reality.
Okay, that's where I was just like,
okay,
would it be the older brother that fades first or the youngest?
Okay, hold up.
And here's the thing. You know what you have to ask?
Plot.
Stop asking questions.
Shut the fuck up.
They needed something easy and trite and visual to carry the theory.
Yeah.
That's it.
My older brother.
It makes no sense. Yeah. But it's perfect for the narrative.
Now, is this where we discuss time travel?
Yes. Sure, why not?
No.
So, it's
well, they go into it better in the second one because basically the time travel theory that they're working from is the one of splintered realities. That when you go back in time and you make a change, you've now created a parallel reality. Okay? The original one exists, but there's no way to get there unless you go back before the split. And potentially you can stay on the right path. So in reality, there is two realities. You just happen to choose one. It's the multiversal theory, and basically the idea being is that every time someone makes a choice, potentially it creates another reality.
It's the butterfly effect.
Well, a little, yeah. That's causality.
All right.
Okay. This is more of a theory of what was it called?
So if
Einstein had this theory that wormholes can be done through time.
Right.
Okay. And basically, or realities. And the idea that parallel realities and time travel are linked is an idea. Okay. Right. The other idea is that everything is, back to your point of the causality, is that everything that has happened for a reason and has brought us to that point. Right. So if you go back in time and change it, you haven't changed it because what you have done will be fixed eventually. Stephen King does a fantastic job with this with 1963.
With John Cusack?
No, with his basically, when he goes back in time and he's trying to prevent the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
And time is pushing back. Time is a character that's pushing back to try and make it so that the original timeline holds. So there's, as you can see, like 3 different theories of time travel right there.
So if I were to go back, let's say I ate an apple that was poisonous. And let's just say I had my partner. So let's say Savannah had one of the time machine.
Yep.
And she would prevent me from eating that apple.
Correct.
And she goes back to her time. I'm still dead. Because there's also
one time travel theory is when you go back in time to that point and stop you from eating that apple.
Right.
You've now created a different reality.
Split reality.
Okay.
Yes.
There's another philosophy that if she goes back in time,
right,
if there's only one single timeline that doesn't branch,
right,
if she goes back in time to stop you from eating the apple, you don't die. She has no reason to come back in time. You've now created a paradox. Time unravels, the world implodes, and there's no reality.
I don't understand.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
That's the Marvel universe.
Time travel's a fuck nut idea.
I agree.
And it's complex, so you have to boil it down to simple nonsense topics.
Yeah.
That when you think too hard, it doesn't make sense. So don't think too hard about time travel. That's the whole freaking point.
All right. So if time travel exists,
let's stop you here. In this movie, time travel is more or less a morality play over can you defend yourself and are you subjective to who your family is?
Well, yes. And as you will find out as the movie moves on, he's now created a parallel reality. And now he moves forward through time to that new reality where his father's successful, where his mother is not
an alcoholic. Yeah.
And his brothers and sisters are successful.
And I will explain it through the scene we're kind of at, which is Doc is like, so let's talk about your pop. And as a man who's 45, he shows up in a high school and no one cares because it's the 60s.
Well, because it's 1955.
Yeah.
And back then,
He's walking anywhere.
not a big deal.
I urge
so
people.
Marty and him are like looking for George, who has a kick me sign, and
Yep.
no one cares. And then they go to lunch, which is where Marty interacts with Biff for the second time after the diner.
Yes. And Marty's trying to get his dad to ask Lorraine out because the only way to prevent him from disappearing, to restore some semblance of the original timeline, is to get them to kiss at the Fishes Under the Sea dance.
And again, Biff is cinema's greatest bully. Like,
Yep.
I don't know how else to put it. And we've talked about his height or whatever, but every time you look at him, he's taller and
Yep.
he's incredible. He like
Boxes and angles, baby. Boxes
That's
and
right.
angles.
That's right.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Wilson, the actor here, Scientology free. He's just terrifying.
It's the short Hollywood Tom without the Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. Yeah. I mean, if anyone's a huge Marvel fan, Robert Downey Jr. is short.
No one here like that.
If you go back and look at the Iron Man movie, he's wearing platform shoes next
The
to
first
Gwyneth
Iron
Paltrow.
Man movie, she was in a cave with scraps. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's his goal. He's trying to get his dad
Trying to
to
woo.
have the confidence.
Yeah.
And so hilarity ensues because he's trying to like teach his own father how to be confident, how
But
to win the girl.
Charlie, he doesn't believe. So how do you convince your dad?
Oh yes. So you come and find him in the middle of the
Sci-fi.
night and you use sci-fi. You
I'm
basically
Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
Yes, exactly. You wear your radiation suit, you put headphones on your dad and blast heavy metal into his ears and tell him that you are Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
That's hilarious. Oh, that's hilarious.
It's like every Dragon Con track in one.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything. So he scares his father into actually trying to do this.
Right.
Okay. And so essentially that's happening. And so now we're like in the fast lane to the actual dance. Okay. And it's coming up on the dance. Everyone's showing up. He basically convinces his father, hey, I'm going to be in the car at this time and I'm going to be ungentlemanly, which, by the way, that means that he's going to have to put his hands on his mother in
Gross.
places that a son should not put his hands on his mother, except for maybe when you are like an infant and breastfeeding.
Or in a like weird X video sub. And he goes,
And
are
so
you
he tells-
sure I should swear? And he goes, damn it, George, you have to swear.
Yes, exactly. Because swearing equals confidence, apparently.
Hey,
Yes.
you get your damn. I love it. Sorry,
Yeah.
I love the prep.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
He's prepping him. Well, before that happens, Biff shows up and his cronies pull Marty out and drag him away.
Yeah.
And now Biff's in the car with Lorraine.
No,
Wait. The only thing I want to add here is at this point, Lorraine is obsessed with him.
right.
Because every
Yeah.
time George wants to show up, she falls more in love with him. At one point, there's that scene where Marty is trying to guide her to ask her out, and he goes, Lorraine, you're my density. I mean, destiny. And she's like, okay, he's online. And then Biff shows up because of course he does.
Because of course he does.
And he tries to throw the cross. And then Marty not only beats him, but this is where he apparently invents skateboarding.
Apparently.
And again, I only mention it because every second of this movie is tight. There's no downtime.
Yeah.
Nope. It moves at a really good clip.
At the end, he tosses up the skateboard and goes, "Thanks, kid." Like it's an Indiana Jones picture. Yeah. There's like the
kid,
he
just tossed him his hat,
and like in the background, there's like the guy with he works at the diner. There's the kid in the Cub Scouts, and he's like, "Thanks, kid," and you're all of a sudden like back in a serial from the 1950s. Mm-hmm. The reason this movie works in my head is not only that there's no downtime, but everything fits together. Yeah. And we'll get to it at the end, which might be the most action-packed sequence we talked about. And we're going to do Terminator 2 in a second.
Yes. So anyway, we know that Marty and his dad have set up this plan. Marty gets pulled out of the car. Biff shows up.
And we have here, too, that Doc knows he might die because he's watching on the old TV himself getting shot to death.
Yeah.
And so the idea then being is, would you make your lifelong dream work if it meant you have to die? Doc also is an incredibly the reason this works is 5 years later, if you hadn't seen this movie, you remember Biff and Doc and Marty and Lorraine because these characters are so well defined. And so Doc realizes, what if I had to sell my family's house, which is the whole plot of this?
Right.
In the cold open, we see that the Brown family manor has been sold and turned into apparently a Burger King.
Yep.
What if he sells everything, but his science works?
Well,
what an incredible thing!
He's so committed to his science that dying is the price that he pays as long as he's successful.
It's incredible, and that's the last scene. It works. He did something that works as he's and the practical effects here of them dancing through the fire tire streaks. It's so good.
Yeah. So we're now fully into the actual dance. Mm-hmm. Okay. George comes out, opens the door, realizes it's Biff, and goes, "Oh, hell no." Right. Biff puts George into a headlock or an arm twist or something.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, basically.
And then he realizes that he has another fist.
I have a fist, and it's free.
Look at that curl he did.
And
then
that curls that fist and swings up, hits Biff, knocks him right out.
And just because we're here, never has a scene between a child and his mother been so hot. Because Lorraine is thirsty AF.
Oh, yeah. And she wants to get some
McFly. She flips over to George at that point.
That's right.
When George knocks out Biff.
Yeah. It's masculine.
She now falls in love with George and Marty who?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Marty at this point has been locked in a trunk.
Correct.
Right.
How does he get out?
But he gets out because the Marvin Berry band finds him. Okay. Now, one of the guys cuts his hand while trying to get him out. The guitarist. Yeah. And Marty realizes, okay, I'm almost there, but I'm not quite there because he needs to get his parents to kiss.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we can't play anymore. There's no more music. And he's like, well, y'all can't do that because they've got to kiss.
Right.
So he volunteers to play the guitar.
Mm-hmm. Because then that way they'll kiss at the Under the Sea dance.
Yeah, the fish is under the sea.
Yeah. Enchantment under the sea.
No, I know it's the enchantment, but
In the
remember
beginning,
in the
the
beginning,
correction,
the
yeah.
sister is
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
the fishes under the sea dance.
I can't wait till my birthday next weekend. I also just want to add, the whole time Marty is on his back foot, and I only want to emphasize it because, like, he knows his own plan, but, like, everything is wrong, and so it's scrappy. He's making out with Lorraine. Lorraine's like, I don't want you to be a square. And so she has a flask with actual liquor, and he can't deal with it. And then she has a cigarette, and he can't deal with it. And then the person who pulls him out of the car is not his future dad. It's Biff, and he doesn't know how to handle. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Kissing you is like kissing my brother.
Right?
We've all been there. And like the whole thing is just it's well done because it's on the back foot. Meanwhile, like Doc has set up this whole miniature version of what's supposed to happen, and Doc, meanwhile, has no social skills either, and he's like, "I'll be there."
Oh yeah, he's trying to set up in downtown Six Square this elaborate mechanism to allow the lightning strike to come down, and I don't know. There's a wire stretched across.
He was
road.
Benjamin Franklin with the keys.
Totally.
Well, and we see the cop, and he goes, "So what are you doing here, Doc?" He goes, "It's a weather experiment. Let me pull out my permit." And he's taking out his wallet to bribe the cop.
Huh.
It's great.
Yep.
And the whole thing is like boiling down to the last moment.
Yeah, this is where everything gets frantic. So now it's flipping back and forth between the scene at the dance and the scene with Doc trying to get everything set up.
Right.
Okay. And so Marty's they're playing the slow song. They're playing the slow song. They're trying to get his
thing.
yes. And so they do finally kiss. And yes, it's time to go.
Marty's hand was
starting to disappear.
With a loser who's a bigger loser than Crispin Glover.
But
I'm sorry.
at the last minute, they kiss.
Yep.
And then, of course, the comedy.
Oh yeah.
He agrees to play one more song. And
He
he plays some rock and roll, Johnny
Thank
Be
God
Good.
white people invent rock music before black people.
I know.
that was it. Yeah.
Well, and he tells them,
Marvin, your cousin.
exactly. So Marvin Berry calls his cousin Chuck Berry and says, "You know that new sound you've been looking for? Here it is." And
Classic.
it's Johnny Be Good.
And then he does all those 80s doodles, which no one can give a shit
Yeah,
about.
yeah. He does get a little
This was his chance.
he gets a little carried away with the guitar, and they're all like, "Oh, what the hell?"
And then the song everyone's like, and this is the favorite point. The principal, like, I think, was he in the talent show? He had covered his ears.
Yeah.
Saying back before. So that was yeah.
So at this point, Lorraine's like, "So George has said he wants to take me home.
He wants to put it in me.
Are you okay with that, Marty?" And Marty's like, "Oh yeah,
I'll survive."
And so they go home, and then now he's got to rush to downtown because he's got to get in the car and he's got to get up to 88 miles an hour and hit that 1.21 gigawatts.
Because he has to do what?
Go back to the future.
Hey, that's the title.
You said it.
You said it.
Actually, it's funny. Once upon a time, and I can't seem to find anymore, Amazon had tags, and one of the tags that you could search for movies was movies who have characters that say the movie title within the movie.
Oh my God, I love that.
Movie.
And I was just like, I love that. I love that.
that.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So anyway,
so just here, the last 10 minutes here
is amazing.
a heart pumping
Action adventure.
It's so good, like, because Marty has a scene where he's trying to say, "Doc,
Well,
you're gonna get shot, and he's writing it. He has a letter.
He's like, and Doc's like, no, I can't know about this. And Marty's about to tell him, and then all of a sudden, lightning strikes, a tree falls, knocks down the power cord connecting to the clock tower.
Right.
And Doc's like, I don't have time. We've got to go do this. So he goes up to the clock tower and he starts trying to put it together.
Well, and again, just remember, this is 85 when this comes out. So it's all practical. There's thunder, there's claps, and it's, I mean, and just to go through it, the car dies. Everything is tight.
Everything is tight. It's like, all of a sudden, it's like he makes the connection up top, and then the connection down below comes unconnected. So he's got to like ride the cable down and then reconnect it. And he does it in the split second right when Marty hits the wire.
And just emotionally, the idea is, what if everything you did was a failure and someone came back and said, you have this one success?
Yeah.
Because, like, that's what it is.
So the stakes are super high.
Yeah.
They're ridiculously high.
And it's emotionally, it's physically, and it's time-based.
I mean, you are in this moment, you are holding your breath because will it come together? Of course it's going to come together because it's a movie. You know?
When I was a child, people talked about Star Wars, and I watched it eventually. My mom's favorite was because she thought Harrison Ford was a hot guy. So it was Indiana Jones. The first trilogy I ever watched and bought was this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why this spoke to me. Maybe it was a comedy. But like this scene, I've seen 1,000 times. And when Doc is sliding down
I
was
cable.
like, he's not going to make it.
Exactly.
And when he does at the last second, and
when
Marty
he does
doesn't,
make it at the last second,
and
that's when you can breathe.
Yeah.
And in the second one, there's literally a scene where Doc is lying. It works. It works. And he's running down and it works. In this, he just crashes into a porno theater, which is somehow more funny. But it's just.
Yeah. So anyway, he gets where does he go?
Pine.
No.
Back to the future.
And so Marty, what he does is because he can't tell Doc because of the sequence of events that made the timeline so tight, he decides to go back 10 minutes early. Well, unfortunately, as you might expect, the DeLorean
GMC
breaks down and he can't drive, so he has to run. He doesn't have enough time to get there. He watches Doc get shot.
Now, I mentioned this earlier in the podcast. Originally, the mall was called the Twin Pine Mall.
Yes.
But also, when Marty went back to 1955, he had essentially hit
ran down
one pine. And if you go back and look, it's only like, was it the Pine Wood Mall? It's usually one pine.
There's single pine
mall. So, little cells.
See, little things like that. Yeah. Well, anyway, so he watches Doc get killed, and he watches a sequence of events right before he went back in time. Okay. And so once that happens, he runs up to Doc, and Doc is like, looks dead for a moment. And he's upset. He's clearly upset. And Doc, shakes off, and he basically reveals that he read the letter and he wore a bulletproof vest.
Well, and the whole line is,
what does he say?
So he wrote Doc this letter about like when you on this date you're gonna get shot by terrorists, and he goes, Doc, I thought you said changing the past. He goes, and I thought, what the hell?
Yeah.
And the what the hell is so
I thought, what the hell?
Perfect.
But it wasn't really changing the past, it was changing the future.
Yeah.
So now we get into the next. So he goes home, and we get into the next day, and that's when we discover that he has made lasting changes to the timeline because this is the theory of alternate realities,
right? And
so there's a new timeline that's been created,
and his dad had never stood up to Biff before,
and now he had. So Biff is the toady cleaning the car And he's like, yes, sir. I'll do that, sir.
Like a bitch.
And his brother's a lawyer?
Yep.
Or
undisclosed
Reagan businessman.
Right.
And now his sister is dating more than one. Is it Greg or Craig?
Yeah, exactly. The sister is pretty and popular.
Mm-hmm.
The father is an author,
Yeah.
and clearly he wrote a book about an alien coming back in time and making a young couple fall in love.
With Darth Vader from Vulcan.
Darth Vader from Vulcan, maybe. Anyway, so at that point, basically he realizes that he's changed things, but for the better. Because before, their family couldn't afford more than one car, and now not only is there the family car, but he has a brand new truck.
4x4.
The Jeep.
His
4x4.
parents are
Was it a Jeep
supportive
or-
of
yeah.
getting laid?
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yep.
Hey.
And of course,
Hey.
his girlfriend comes over. They're getting ready to go camping, and all of a sudden,
New Jennifer.
new Jennifer.
Did they change actors?
In between this and the next.
Okay, so it wasn't between the two scenes.
No.
No, that would be funny, but actually could be explained by time travel shenanigans.
Yeah.
So Doc drives up, and
with one of the greatest lines ever.
and what does Doc say?
You gotta say it.
Well, first Doc is going through the garbage and he goes, it's not about us, it's about your kids. And then he goes, you can't make 88 miles per hour here. And he goes, roads.
Where we're going.
We don't need roads.
Need roads. But the reason why he's going through the trash because there is a Mr. Fusion in the style of Mr. Coffee.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mr. Coffee was a thing.
No.
So
Still sort of is.
No, for purposes, because hopefully we'll do Back to the Future too. What year did they travel to?
Oh, of course,
30
2015.
years later. Yeah.
And we're in 2023.
Yeah, of course.
None of that. Actually, if you think about it,
Here's the other thing. It was. They had the sequel like it was another Terminator situation because this came out in '85 and the sequel came out in '89.
Yeah,
4 years later. No one thought it was going to happen because they clearly set it up, but it just didn't happen. And then all of a sudden they did. And I kid you not, people lost their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and to be clear, the end of this movie was about like the way to be successful is to be upper middle class.
Yeah.
And like Crispin Glover hated that.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. You need to be a Reaganomics trickle down, upper white middle class, selling books, etc. And that's the mark of success.
And like
you can sell books and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
well, because
back
like,
then.
That was the first line.
like the end of 85's version here was not just standing up to the bully. It was also like later he's like, now Biff, have you polished the BMW 7 times? Like it wasn't just like putting him in his place. It was like we have a membership at the tennis club.
Right.
And so Crispin Glover was like,
Well, he was wearing like a polo shirt with a sweater tied around his neck. Okay, this is Chad, problematic Chad, on a yacht.
I got you. No, the khakis and the polo with the you just had to wear bright colors.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So, and of course, the special effects at the end have Jennifer and Marty in the passenger seat, Doc in the driver's seat. He flips down his fancy shades, and all of a sudden, where we're going, we don't need roads, and it takes off and flies.
No, you're done.
And then it says to be continued in the Back to the Future
I
script.
can honestly say that was the first time a sequel that I've seen a sequel set up that way. The to be continued. I only seen that shit in TV. So you tell me I'm gonna get even better shit.
Well, see,
in the next movie?
that was the thing. When that came out in '85, everyone was like, "Oh, well, obviously there's a sequel coming in a year or two." It didn't happen.
yeah, it was
It took till '89. So people really thought this was not going to happen.
That's
And again, it's a good line to end. Roads? Where are we going?
We don't need roads. Because, of course, everyone's looking for their flying cars.
Because in that next movie, they end up in 2015.
Yes, exactly. 2015.
Awkward.
Where's our flying cars?
Well,
and
and
our
again-
personal Mr. Fusion reactors.
Truth.
And again, I know this podcast is in its 10th season. If we do this again in 5 years, we'd have a different podcast because it's still a perfect movie in some ways. Absolutely. So, Trinette, you're up first. What do you think?
Again, excellent pick, Nick. This movie, though confusing as it is, I can rewatch the trilogy over and over again. I remember my sister begging me to stop watching these over and over. It's like we sat through. I remember we all sat down. We watched 1, 2, 3 for second. I fucking loved it. I can see why this movie is so good because the budget, mind you, 1985 was $19 million to make. It made $388.8 million.
Wow.
Dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
1985.
In 1985.
Wow.
Which makes you wonder why they waited so long to make the sequel.
Probably
They probably had a hard time nailing down the actors. Well, by this point, Michael J. Fox was a superstar.
right. So you probably
Because, right before when they signed him to this movie, he was probably easy to get. He was cheap.
Right.
After this movie, after Teen Wolf,
Right.
expensive.
Right.
So,
right. No. And so I loved it. It makes you think. This movie has everything. Makes you think. It was comedy, action, drama, horror at times. If you
well, making out with your mom.
yeah, that's a little.
That's some horror right there.
That taboo shit be scary. But yeah.
That's like your mom on a board in an X-Files TV show.
I can't think about it. Anyways, but that are my thoughts. I loved it. Thank you.
Candace.
Me next. All right. Fun. I mean, that's all this movie is.
Yeah.
The end. I mean, there's nothing amazing about it. I love Doctor Who. I love time travel. It was fun. The end.
So, it's a classic movie. It's great. It was well done. It had moments of comedy. It was science fiction with a little bit of fun. They didn't try to explain too much with the time travel. They took a very casual approach to it. It is what it is. I liked it. But for me, my movie that I loved with Michael J. Fox was Teen Wolf. It came out the same year. It got all my attention. I went to see that one in the theater 5 times. I only saw this one in the theater once.
Wow.
So there you go.
Did you like number 2?
Which one?
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf 2?
Yeah.
It didn't have Michael J. Fox. How could I like
Jason Bateman, the next Bex.
that? And he was
80s.
and he was boxing in college. Fuck that shit.
So, I almost wish Matt Quinn was here, if only to say the movies.
How I would have done it.
Well, but the movies he likes talks about a universe he'd rather live in.
Yep.
And this is the kind of movie I think he'd like.
Yeah, definitely.
So to me, this is a masterpiece for not just filmmaking, but all those things we make fun of. Characterization, the Chekhov's gunness of it. Because that scene in the parking lot, Doc explains the entirety of how the time travel is supposed to work.
Yep.
Everything about it is explained. You can't think about it past that.
No, it really, if you think too hard, it hurts.
Falls apart.
Yep.
And so, to me, this movie works because it never stops moving, and it doesn't break its own rules. No. That's it. And the fact that it's about Marty's mom and him falling kind of in love is comedic. It figures out the rules it's supposed to play. It's so hard to do these things and that's why I like a lot of Star Trek stuff, where it's time travel's hard, but what if time travel was about, these 3 rules? you'd get it.
Yeah.
And because of that, it works. I don't know. I think this is a masterpiece because of that. And maybe one day we'll do another one of these Back to the Future movies.
Please.
Because these movies made $1 trillion in modern parlance. And this movie, in some ways...
Except for the third one, which is fucking awful.
I still liked it.
But even that is practical effects.
Yep.
It's not terrible. This movie to me... I'll fight you. I don't disagree with Candace.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this original is so solid and it has the same rules as that one you hate. There are bad Doctor Who episodes too.
That's true.
And this, at least that, if this was a Doctor Who, American Doctor Who, this was a Professor Who episode.
Yeah.
That third one, which you think is trash, is still like a C+ episode of Doctor Who.
That's
Yeah,
true.
2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Not, but-
You're right. You're right.
Anyway, so because it's my month, and I will continue this month. Girl. Next week we're going to Terminator 2 because
Dun dun dun.
dun 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 dun.
Dun dun dun.
And that one has the same amount of Universal Studios, right? I was gonna make a joke, but we're still there. So thanks for doing what you do to make us on the charts. At this point, we have about 500,000 listeners. So I'm here to talk to you about those things that you haven't cheered for me for. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for doing everything you do. And if you haven't reviewed us yet where you get us, please do.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerdtranet and Daniel Suttis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Suttis, and Nerdtranet. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from Incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 4 license, Creative Commons/licenses by /4.0. Thanks.